Hello everyone, so I've been experimenting with some new control settings and I wanted to get everybody's take on it. So what I've been trying to do is combine uh, acceleration control of decoupled mode with velocity limiting all into one fluid control interface. So basically what I did is in the lower left corner, you'll see, oh, that's not going to work. Never mind. Sorry. In the lower left corner, you'll see basically my left stick. So I've got dual stick. My left stick, you're going to see where my left stick, what the control position is, right? So that's like my physical axis location. So what I did was I bound the magnitude of that. So for example, if I'm forward 50%, then it's 50%. If I'm left 50%, it's 50%. And if I'm forward and left, it's like, the square root of 2 times 50% or whatever. And so the magnitude of that, I bound that to speed limiters. So you'll see the speed limiter go up and down, basically, depending on what my input is. So even if I'm going backwards, see speed limiter goes up and down. You can see the speed limiter moving up and down this line over here, right? So that's cool. So my speed limiter will move up and down based on the magnitude of my deflection, and I included vertical too, so you can see, and it's additive, right? So that's the magnitude. And then I'm in decoupled mode, so that's acceleration control. So in decoupled mode, the amount of deflection from center is how much acceleration you're going to get. So that's the target acceleration. It's different from coupled mode. In coupled mode, the amount of deflection is your target velocity. But in decoupled, it's target acceleration, right? So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to figure out if there's a way to have analog thrust control and also velocity control sort of in the same scheme. So I did my best to combine it. And there's definitely better ways to do this that would be, on the game design side, but this is, the best way I could come up with. Because a lot of people were saying they, want analog thrust control. Well, you have it in decoupled mode, but a lot of people don't want to use decoupled mode, so I'm trying to sort of figure out a way to combine them two. So basically, if I move my stick forward, then you see how the G's, this is the accelerometer down here, right? So as I move forward, my thrust is increasing, right? And then my speed limiter is also increasing. So if I just move it back, see, it's going to stay to a certain speed, right? So it's kind of interesting. It's sort of like coupled mode because I'm setting a desired speed by doing this. Except you'll see when I turn like this, it does not work like decoupled mode. It definitely slides. So you got to manually cancel those inputs for the most part, like I'm doing right now. So it's kind of interesting that it sort of is a little bit of both worlds. And I figured that, when I'm up here with the speed, I'm pretty much going to want max all the time, right? There's not a lot of fine motions I do up on this end of the speed range. This is from 550 to 1200 or something for the speed. So what I did was I made it, and this is adjustable, and I'm going to see what I just hurt myself. I'm going to see what the best way to do it is, but what I did was when the speed limiter is at 50%, that corresponds to max thrust, right? So see 7.6. So you'll see that once I get to 50%, it's 7.6, and then it stays that way for this whole range up here, right? So it reaches max thrust at 50% magnitude, right? And then I've got it on a curve, and then obviously I've got my speed limiter on a curve too, so that I get more precision down here toward the bottom, and less precision up here. But it's still pretty, I can set halfway between those two tick marks pretty easily, or halfway between those two tick marks. So I'm still, with my analog inputs, I'm still able to basically make precise inputs about the whole range of motion, but it's definitely more precise down here. So some things to note with this is that even though I'm controlling acceleration down here and my speed limiter, if I want to slow down, it always uses max. See that? So it always uses max acceleration to decelerate. If the speed limiter is below what the current speed is, and you can do this sideways too, watch. So look how it's using like only 1.4 to get up to that speed, right? 1.6, 1.9. So if I like center it now, it's going to go straight to using 2.4, which is the max lateral, right? So it always uses the maximum to decelerate. But for acceleration, it's going to depend on how much deflection I'm using. I hope I've not like lost people. It is definitely very complicated. Probably too complicated for a lot of people to get use out of it, but I just wanted to see what everybody thinks. I also tried it in combat, you know, and I was never one doing a lot of decoupled combat. I think I know the mechanics behind it, but I'm just not that good at it. But it's a lot like that, because in combat you're turning constantly, and so when you're doing that with this, you're going to have to be constantly manually shifting your vector rather than relying on coupled mode to make the inputs for you. So that's in combat, it felt like, because I was turning constantly, it felt like a lot of, you know, decoupled stuff. But the difference is that if you were, you know, very tight on your inputs, there was never a time when the speed got away from me. That was the big difference there. So it was like, yes, I had to like manually counter strafe and all that, but it was also way easier to control my speed. So it's sort of like a hybrid between coupled and decoupled. Kind of interesting. So this isn't exactly combat. I do have some combat footage though, but I'll sort of show you what it's like. I'll do some orbiting here. So if you freak out, all you can do is just center your strafe stick, and it'll bring you to 0, and it'll use max G to bring you to 0. So that's, you know, what I end up doing a lot. But yeah, it definitely feels decoupled when I'm doing something like this. So like I've got to like manually put strafe in here, and then I got to watch my speed too, right? Because when I'm doing combined inputs, since that speed limiter is on a magnitude, it's going to be, you know, a lot higher than what I need to do here. So definitely interesting. Let me try switching directions and see if that throws me for a loop. So if you want to follow along, you can view my physical axis inputs in the lower left-hand corner and see what I'm doing here to try to make this work. So it's a lot like decoupled, basically. Kind of interesting. And then I'll just like compare this to coupled mode real quick. So I need to couple back up. And, oh. Okay. That was weird. It turned my power off.
Systems online.
Okay. And then, so I'm going to couple back up. And then I'm going to turn off my new mode that I made for this. And then I'm going to kill the speed limiter. So now I'm coupled, and I'm going to do the same thing. It's way easier, at least for me. But I'm like, in coupled mode, you're always using maximum thrust available. See, look at my G meter, right? Switch directions. I purposely chose the Hornet so I could like, because the Gladius was so nimble that you didn't really see the ramp up in acceleration before it got to the speed limiter, so it almost looked like the same thing as normal coupled mode. So that's normal coupled. Oop.
Missiles Dry.
Well, that might be for the best. How do I kill myself? Okay. I guess that might be the end of that. I was going to do it with just normal decoupled to show the difference, but that might be it for now. All right. Well, let me know what you all think. All right. Bye.